Today I will introduce to you a Russian movie about the war between humans and aliens. The movie begins 3 years after the aliens came, and there was a conflict. The news announced that thanks to USA, Russia, and China, they won. A new satellite is being deployed in the orbit around Earth meant to monitor deep space, so that no alien object can approach the planet unnoticed again. As the satellite opens, a strange alien ship can be seen moving its tentacle-like parts. Suddenly a shuttle deploys from it, heads to Earth and enters the atmosphere. Meanwhile, somewhere in the ocean a fishing boat can be seen with fishermen working and chatting. One of them looks out over the water and sees the alien shuttle drop. He doesn't share what he saw with the others. Next, the shuttle can be seen as it moves underwater like a submarine. For months later, Yulia is seen jogging with her dog. As they come into an apartment complex, the dog escapes and doesn't come back for her calls. She tells the men that are with her to help find him. Later, as she's sitting in robotics class, her friend asks her about some new information from the lab. She tells him that if she shares any information, her guards will have to shoot him on the spot. After the class, Yulia's friend tries to express his love for her, but she knowingly stops him, saying that he'll be safer if they remain friends. Her guards escort them to her father's car. Her father, General Lebedev, talks to Yulia's friend, calling him Google. The kid brags that he works at Rostelcom, and they drop him off there. He enters the building, and when security asks for his ID, it shows that he's just an intern. Meanwhile, Yulia and her dad are still driving, and they arrive in a research laboratory of the Russian Ministry of Defense, where a robot is seen tearing through the doors and smashing a car. Yulia's dad talks to a scientist at the lab asking about it. The scientist explains that it's some kind of biotechnology. The robot is being controlled by a human talking with them over comm. The general comments that it's a Russian extraterrestrial co-production. The scientist then explains that Yulia is the key to understanding how all of it works. Meanwhile, somewhere in the facility, Yulia is taking part in an experiment. The main scientist interrogates her about her encounter with the extraterrestrial spacecraft and monitors her reactions, not just her answers. When he asks her about her friend that died in the encounter, her heart rate spikes, and then again when he asks why she helped the alien, they ask her about her boyfriend Artyom, and she gets upset, not wanting to answer. Suddenly the boyfriend is brought into the lab. He starts talking to her, and she gets incredibly upset, telling the scientist to stop the experiment and get her out. He apologizes for killing her, as she tries to reap through her restraints. As he keeps talking, the scientist encourages him, and suddenly there's a giant surge of power. Her father runs into the lab and gets her out of the pool, while Artyom is being escorted, asking why he's locked up when she is free. Later, Yulia and her father talk, and she begs him to let her be alone for a moment, without her guards or anyone else around her. He agrees and leaves, then meets with a soldier, Ivan, telling him that he'll have to pull a night shift and to change in some regular clothes. That night, Yulia is drinking at a bar. She spots Ivan and buys him a drink to let him know she's onto him. So he joins her at the bar. She offers him a drink before they leave, but a second man appears saying they have to go. The man introduces himself as Hakan and says Yulia needs to come with him even though she doesn't want to. Ivan and Hakan start fighting, but Yulia hits the soldier over the head, knocking him out. Her and Hakan leave the bar and call the alien spaceship Sol. It tracks where they are and finds them a ride leading them to a car with 2 passengers. It takes over the digitalized car and starts driving it. Sol talks to them over the comm, and Ivan catches up to them. The car manages to push Ivan away and drives off, being careful not to hurt people on the road. Ivan catches up to them again with a motorcycle and calls General Lebedev to inform him of the situation. The general tells him to follow them, but starts evacuating the laboratory of the Ministry of Defense, under the explanation that the aliens have come back to Earth. Back in the car, Hakan tells Yulia that she's in danger because they went too far with the experiments, so they have to fly away immediately. The car is speeding and almost hits a pedestrian, but instantly stops in front of him, telling the other passengers to get out. Hakan and Yulia continue riding in the car. Ivan pursues after them and shoots one of the wheels. He causes a car accident, but Sol tracks him from above and manages to save him. Ivan calls the general to tell him he lost them. Sol drives Hakan and Yulia to a remote place in the middle of the woods. She reluctantly walks in, but she's suddenly greeted by her dog that's there. Yulia tells Hakan that she thought he was dead. It seems that he was the alien she helped in the previous encounter. He says that the previous time everything went wrong. They go inside the house, and they talk about how he's been living on Earth. He tells her that he has adapted to life on the planet. Someone knocks on the door, and when Yulia opens it, she sees it's Google. She's angry, even though that was what he tried to tell her before. Hakan tells her that he was supposed to leave after the first encounter, but he violated the protocol and stayed on Sol close to Earth. They kiss and make love. As Sol is seen changing its form, it turns into Ka. The next morning Yulia calls her dad and tells him that she's with Hakan. She tells him that she has to leave because she doesn't belong on Earth anymore and asks him not to tell. Nevertheless, the general orders his men to track her signal. Yulia walks back in the house where Hakan is waiting for her with breakfast. Meanwhile, a tactical unit has surrounded the house with Hakan and Yulia inside and is ready to storm it. General Lebedev tells them to stand down, but Ka intercepts the call and changes the general's command to shoot to kill. The unit enters the house. Hakan fights a few of the soldiers off. Then the two of them escape. His ship is activated and waiting for them at the river. Hakan jumps in, but the unit follows them and shoots Yulia as she is getting into the ship. Hakan flies away. Suddenly an order comes in to launch a missile at them, but Hakan eliminates the missile mid-air. The ship is still damaged though, and it falls through the sky and into the river. Hakan tries to reach Seoul, but Ka tells him that Yulia needs to be eliminated before it can repair his ship. He declines and Ka tells him that he needs to be eliminated too. The general and Ivan try to catch up to them, receiving different kinds of miscommunication that RA has intercepted. They find out that Space Defense is after the ship, with the general confused as to who gave that order. Helicopters are seen charging toward the river, switching to combat mode and shooting at the ship. Back in the facility, Artyom tricks his guard and manages to get inside the robot, steal it, and run away in it. He gets to a bridge on the river and hears that there is a unit after the ship ready to shoot them down. The ship glides through the water but gets shot by two helicopters. It flies out of the water and falls through the air with water following it. Eventually it crashes on the ground. The helicopters are in position, getting the kill order from Ka, when Artyom in the robot suit jumps at one of them and rips it to shreds. On the ground, the general gets to the ship and goes to check for Yulia, but her and Hakan have already escaped. He carries her to an ambulance when they find Artyom, who sees that she's hurt and tells them he'll get a doctor for her. But Hakan tells him that all she needs is water. Artyom flags down a car and they steal it, leaving its owner behind this time. While they're driving, Hakan explains how powerful Soul is and how it can control human technology. Artyom asks what it wants and he tells him that it only wants to eliminate Yulia. In the meantime, Yulia's father goes to the Ministry of Defense where a special meeting has been summoned. He storms the meeting, asking why such orders were placed when they were chasing the ship. The vice premier tells him that he is out of line and gets ordered to sit down. Then he asks the Space Defense to explain their actions. They say the orders came from the general. A recording is played where the general's voice can be heard giving the order. The vice premier orders the news to be played in the meeting, where the devastation in Moscow from the chase is apparent. The media is blaming Yulia for what happened and play a deepfake video of her making her sound like a terrorist. That's on the side of the aliens threatening the city. They reveal that not only the VD, but the entire news program is fake, being broadcast from someplace else and not a TV station. The general tells them that the aliens are the ones doing it. He asks for retaliation, to which the vice premier says he needs evidence so he can confirm such action. General Lebedev asks for special protocols to be put in place in the meantime, saying that only analog technology should be used for all of their communication. The vice premier agrees and preparations begin for the switch. Simultaneously, Hakan, Yulia, and Artyom get to a store to get water for her. Hakan goes inside to buy it. When he finds the right kind of water and goes to the register, the phones of all the people start ringing. Everyone in the store is talking about Yulia and a possible terror attack. All of the people start getting the same message about her, that they need to find her and eliminate her. As Hakan returns to the car, a woman in the adjacent car recognizes Yulia and informs a police patrol that's in her vicinity about her. Artyom drives away as the police start chasing them. Ivan gets the same message while escorting the ship back to the Ministry of Defense. The fake message tells him the attack caused by Yulia has injured his son. All digital media gets swamped by RA with the same information about Yulia, making her public enemy number one. Google gets a visit from a police officer asking about Yulia. His grandmother sends the officer away, and when they close the door, asks where he hid his friends. They were in the closet. The next moment, Artyom and Hakan submerge Yulia in water. Hakan tells him that she's no longer human. He says pain is changing her, making her extremely, if not dangerously, powerful. Ka has calculated that her death might save everyone else from her power, and that's why it wants to destroy her. Later, Google and Artyom get Hakan drunk intentionally and decide to take him to the Ministry of Defense. Artyom gives Google no choice on the matter. Once they arrive, they're greeted by Yulia's father, ready to kill them. Google breaks and tells him where his daughter is. He confronts Hakan and asks him to tell him the coordinates of RA, which is known solely to him, and tells him that he has to decide between her and his people. Ivan tries to get in touch with his wife, but he can't. He sees the news about Yulia as the general walks in, telling his men to prepare an observatory and the satellite with the coordinates he got from Hakan. The general tells Ivan to get Yulia, but bring her to him directly without informing anyone else. The observatory locates Ka, so the general contacts the vice premier about the next step. They decide to engage with it violently but need to destroy a satellite so that it doesn't catch up to what they're doing and create different problems. The military sends Google to Rostelcom to take down their satellite. Once the satellite is down, they will only have a few seconds before it reboots. They will destroy Ka with a super-secret weapon that the vice premier pretends they don't even have, even though they do. The general convinces him that they have no other choice. Meanwhile, Yulia wakes up in the tub. Her wounds are gone. She gets ready to leave Google's grandmother's apartment when Ivan shows up at the door. He's driving her someplace, but she doesn't know that he thinks she's to blame for the attacks. He confronts her with the information threatening her that if his son dies, so will she. The general gives the order to launch the special missile and destroy the satellite as well. They wait for the missile to destroy Ka and rejoice when it's done. But the general isn't convinced. He wants a full report and a visual confirmation to make sure the alien spaceship is destroyed. In the meantime, people gather on the streets and demand for Yulia's prosecution. Ivan is driving her through the crowd. He still doesn't believe her, but he eventually takes her to the ministry to her father and the others. Ivan is disappointed with the general and quits on the spot. Hakan uses a phone to communicate with Ka. It tells him that it is ready for retribution, since it doesn't believe humans are worthy of anything. Ka tells Hakan that he can fly back, but he declines. Still believing in mankind, the powerful spaceship starts a process of destruction on the planet, seen from everywhere, including the tower of the Ministry of Defense. Ka is angry at the humans for trying to use its technology to create weapons like Yulia. It creates a massive water dome around the area of Moscow where she is and starts flooding the inside of the walls. The military tries everything, but they can't destroy the dome. They start evacuating people, only to tell them that their only hope is to go as high up as they can and remain on the roofs of the buildings. The general tells Hakan to grab Yulia and get her to the chopper on the roof. So he gets her and Artyom there and inside of the helicopter, but remains in the dome. Hakan comes back to the general and asks for his shuttle, telling him that he can try and destroy Ka if he can hit it with the shuttle. The general, realizing it's a one-way ticket, wants to go instead, but that's not possible since only Hakan can operate it manually. The general evacuates his men but remains behind to help Hakan navigate toward Ka. The helicopter with Yulia and Artyom loses altitude and has to land, but it starts falling and the two of them jump out in the water. They are pulled on one of the roofs with the other people in the disaster area. The water keeps getting higher and Yulia can't accept that all the people can get hurt because of her, so she surrenders. She asks Artyom to kill her, and the others around them hear her. Meanwhile, the general manages to get Hakan as close to Ka as he possibly can until the water comes inside the building and floods it. Back at the roof, Yulia is begging to die, wanting to end all the suffering she's caused. Ivan is there and he sees her going after her with a gun. Artyom tries to protect her but gets shot instead. The water starts closing in on them, but Ivan has lost his nerve. The water overtakes them. Hakan is getting closer and closer to Ka, eventually speeding the ship towards it. Under the water, Yulia's bracelet activates and sends streams of water toward Ka. As Hakan gets closer to it too, Yulia pulls Ka out of the water and military helicopters start shooting at it as they see it. Yulia keeps pushing the ship out and the military drops a missile on it, destroying it. Suddenly the water starts receding and people start coming up for air. The general is still alive as well. Hakan's ship gets pushed back in the remaining water as Ka is dying. He appears on the roof next to Yulia. The alien threat has been destroyed and the day saved yet again. In the final moments, the general attends a fake funeral for his daughter, and later a helicopter flies over Kamchatka. One person leaves the plane and walks off with the dog. It's the general tracking a specific location, and when he gets there he finds Yulia and Hakan. They embrace and wonder where to go next. Yulia touches the water and a spaceship appears from below. The movie ends here. Goodbye and see you again.